Nyamiskana. Today we're going to talk about the Haudenosaunee. Haudenosaunee. The people of the Longhouse, or builders of Longhouse, referred to by the French in our history as the Iroquois. The English referred to us in earlier times as the Five Nations, also referred to as the Six Nations. And Haudenosaunee being a Seneca word that we use to describe ourselves. And I'm going to talk a little bit to start with, and I'm going to draw while I'm talking, and I'm going to tell this story about how these nations came together. And, you know, we formed an alliance, I guess you could call it, and we came together in a confederacy, and we formed a representative form of government. And this story starts about 1,000 years ago. So that's where we're going to put the time frame for this story. And I'm just drawing a rough shape to represent what we know now as New York State. And I'm using this so that you have a good point of reference of the area that we're talking about. And, you know, things were very different, obviously, 1,000 years ago. And I'm going to put some things on the map here to give us a good idea of where things are. And again, this is just a rough sketch of this area. And we're going to talk first about the nations that we are referring to. And, you know, things in our early history started out kind of rocky, started out kind of rough. And across this area lived a number of different groups of people. And we're going to take a little minute here, and I'm going to draw some things that are referred to in the Seneca language as gustoet. And I'm going to go slow like this while I'm talking, and I'd like to encourage you to maybe give a version of these the best you can. And of course, these are not perfect by any means, but it helps, I think, with the story. And will give you an idea of this part of history. And as I said, I'm going to take and just kind of roughly sketch these shapes here. And we're going to take our time here and put these on. So I think where we'll start is we'll start way over here to the east side of this map. And we're going to take and we're going to draw some lines on top of this gustoet, and we're going to make 3 lines like this, kind of sticking up. And then we'll draw a shape like this around those lines, and these will represent feathers, like so. And now we can draw some kind of squiggly lines like this to make some feathers down below. Maybe point it on the end a little bit. And it doesn't take much. If you take your time, it's not hard. So then we'll go back through and we'll color it in a little bit on these tips of the feathers. So where we're starting here with this group, this represents a group of people, and now these ones, maybe we'll make some stripes on them. We'll make them look a little stripy. We'll color the ends of these ones. We can mix it up a little bit. But you get the idea about coloring these in. So like that. And the reason we did that is we're showing that to represent these people that we refer to in Seneca as Ganyak Gyeono. Ganyak Gyeono. Ganyak Gyeono, referring to them as the Flint people or the Flint Nation, Ganyak Gyeono. Now, English-speaking people came to our area and referred to them as the Mohawks. And again, that's an English name for them, Ganyak Gyeono. So I labeled it like that. Now this next headdress, or gastoet, we're going to show the feathers a little different. So now we're going to show two of them up like that, and one kind of laying down like this, of these big feathers. So we'll do the same thing. We'll color the tips of them. And again, don't feel too bad if yours is maybe wrong size, or this time we're going to put kind of like square looking feathers on this one. These are like maybe turkey feathers or grouse feathers. And we'll go like this. Stripes on those guys. And if you want to, however way you want to do it, you can do it that way. So they are Utneotka. 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 People of the Standing Stone Utneotka, or in English, Ganyonka, the Oneidas. Neotka. So we're working our way from the east towards the west. So this next one, we're going to do like this. We'll put one up. I've seen it a couple different ways with these guys. Sometimes I see two up, but we're going to put it like this. Sometimes they have it standing up more. Coloring it in a little bit. And if I go a little fast, maybe you can pause the video. If you're drawing it, if you like to draw, I used to, in school all the time, be drawing when the teacher was talking. Some teachers don't like that. But sometimes I would be drawing what they're talking about. And for me, if I am listening to something and doing that, I can remember things better. Just how I do. Some people learn that way. But let's say these again. The Flint people. Neotka, the Standing Stone people. Now we have Ononda. Ononda Giono, or people on the hill. Ononda de is a hill. Ononda Giono, or Ononda Ge, that place. In English, Onondaga. That one's close. Ononda Giono. Next one, their neighbor. We're going to make one feather kind of laying down like that. It slants to the back. So if a person had this on their head, they'd be facing that way. So their face would be over here. But we'll put some smaller feathers on there. Maybe he's got a lot on this one. Color in the tips like that. These are the Gayongweono, the people of swampy land. Gayongweono, or the Cayugas, the Cayuga Nation. Gayongweono. And these might be kind of maybe moved over a little bit, but this is just a general idea about these different groups. So this last group, you can do one feather straight up. Sometimes we have it on a mechanism that lets it spin. Onundawaka, 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 people of the great hill, Onundawaka. And people refer to us in English as Senecas. Tondasi, repeat it. Ganyak Giono, Mohawks, Neotka, Oneidas, Onunda Giono, Onondagas, Kayongweono, Cayugas, Onondawaka, Senecas. So, this story that I'm going to talk about talks about these 6 groups, or these 6 nations. Some people call it tribes, but we're starting off with a story that begins about 1,000 years ago. And 1,000 years ago, we're going to begin it where these nations all lived very similar. We all planted Johikon. We planted the 3 sisters, and we grew that for our survival. And that Johikon was a way for us to get through hard times, because all the people in those days were hunters and relied on fishing and hunting and gathering things from our surroundings and going around and just using a colored pencil now. And I'm just coloring it just a little bit like this. Not coloring the whole thing in. And like I said, it's more of a way for me to remember the story and kind of keep my place too as I'm telling it. Now, as I said, where this story begins is it begins in a time that could be called like our dark ages 1,000 years ago. And in that time, during those times, our people were all having a hard time. And it really was kind of our own fault. And what was happening was, you would think that these nations living close together, all living and building bark houses, living a real similar lifestyle. By the way, this water is Lake Ontario.